Hey, it's CJ, and this is the Retro Rundown. We're all about the awesome 80s, pop culture, movies, music, and more. My first guest tonight is the Dawn of video gaming, the VG Mobster himself, John Drew. So stick around. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll start the rundown.
Hey everybody, it's your favorite Aunt Petunia of the Aunt Petunia Variety Show. And I need you to follow me on Twitter.
Hey, it's CJ, and welcome back to the Retro Rundown. Really excited about tonight. Tonight's our first show from Rasani Studios, and we have a very special guest coming on. John Drews, you might know him as the Dawn of video gaming, the VG Mobster himself, at VG Mobster on Twitter. Welcome to the show, John.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
What's going on? You just got back from vacation, huh?
Yes, I did. I just got back from the Jersey Shore. It was beautiful weather, and I was lounging on the beach, water parks, boardwalks, a lot of high cholesterol food. Loved it.
Do any singing while you were down there?
No, I did not. I actually didn't. I led my niece is actually a really good dancer, so I just watched her dance. She was really good. So.
Yeah, you know, we've been friends on Twitter for quite some time, and I was amazed, and I wanted to talk about your Master Sword group that you guys have on YouTube. I watched a few of your videos. They're pretty cool. I mean, it's tough to lock down video gaming and put it into hip hop and put lyrics to it and make a video, cut a video, and you guys did a pretty high quality job. You got almost an album's worth of material. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's really incredible. It's really the brainchild of TJ. It was kind of crazy because when I was in college, pretty much, I was in a band that used to tour around New York City, and it was kind of like a funk hip hop band,
right?
And we used to just do like gigging around the Village and Midtown, and just a lot of those kind of bars and spots. And ever since I out of college, the band, we were together pretty much throughout college, and then we just kind of went our separate ways. I've always been trying to kind of get back into, kind of doing like hip hop. I've done like some solo stuff with a guy that I used to be in the band with, who's also a like genius music producer. And I used to do stuff with him, like, just kind of like, hobbyist,
it's fantastic.
Records. But then I heard TJ and this guy, another awesome artist on Mobster Music, the Switch Bit. And they used to do these songs. It was really cool. They would do kind of like play into characters. And they would kind of like battle as the personas of characters, like Ryu versus Ken, like Final Fantasy battle, Sephiroth versus Cloud, I think one of them was.
Really?
And I was like, oh, this is really cool because like I love video games, and I've been looking to kind of get back into music. Just on a hobby level, just kind of, it's my passion, just wanted to do it again. And then it was crazy. So what I did when I started doing some YouTube videos, I thought of this idea for doing one of the segments. I wanted to kind of review like retro games, and I was going to call it the Taking It Back series. And then when I did the Taking It Back series, I was like, well, I kind of would like to have like some sort of video that I could use to kind of cut in, to that segment.
Right.
And then what I did, I was like, oh, well, I saw this guy TJ and Switchbit. I was like, well, why don't I get them on a track together, and we'll call it Taking It Back. I can have like a cool music video just for content, and then I can also use that song as like the intro for those Taking It Back segments.
Yeah.
And then when we collaborate on that video, I think you shared it on Twitter. Thank you for that. I spent like so much time in that video. I did that all myself. It was an awesome video. It just took forever to do, but it was totally worth it. I'm really proud of it. But more importantly, after that, I just found that TJ was like not just an MC. This guy was a super talented producer. So we started,
the video is very high quality.
Yeah, so we started like talking, and he was like, yeah, you know, it was really fun collaborating on this track. He's like, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get like 5 or 6 artists together with, you know, like obviously video game themed like lyrics, but it could be like different topics, different styles of beats. I'm trying to get all different.
Oh, the
types
flow
of
is incredible. I mean, we're going to show a clip when this airs, and I just loved it, especially because you hit on all of my favorite genres in that video.
Yeah, it was like, it was just like the concept for the video is just like all pretty much every MC on there. They were all like we're all around the same age, so we were all Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64.
Got it.
And we were just all arcade, you know, the dead art of the arcade.
Right.
Now, you know, just kind of like reminiscent about when we were kids growing up, and that's what we would do. You know, just kind of collaborating, playing with our friends, either at the comic book shops, the baseball card stores, the pizzerias, the straight up arcades, or even just at our friends' houses when it started to go to like home console stuff. And, you know, just kind of reminiscent about it. So it was a really cool like video. I really liked how it came out. Everybody collaborated so good. And yeah, that video was awesome. So yeah, from that, he was telling me, he's like, hey, I want to start this kind of like label of like different types of artists who want to rap about, you know, like video game, like somewhat grounded lyrics, but it could go off of that sometimes, you know, but just like that's kind of like the core. So yeah, ever since then, you know, it's like me, Switchbit, TJ, this guy Katetsu is also a producer, and now TJ's wife Zap Crystal. I think you might have even heard her. She's a pretty good YouTuber. She's got about like 6,000 subs.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's a great singer too. Found out.
Oh, so, you got to get her in.
Yeah. So we all kind of like put our heads together, and you know, we've been just doing some albums now. You know, just kind of like, again, you know, kind of
so you're cutting demos
stuff
then,
just to get used to it. But yeah, we're gonna keep going, and TJ's super talented. I'm just excited to be along for the ride, and I mean, he's just so gifted, and he kind of like his style meshes with my like lyrical style, so it works, you know.
And we can find you on Twitter at Master Sword Music, right?
That's TJ's. Yeah, that's like the label's Twitter, Master Sword Music. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm at VG Mobster personally, and I usually share like, you know, when videos come out or projects come out.
Okay.
Like the latest project is it's kind of funny you said that. The latest project that just released that is, you know, on all streaming platforms now is Master Sword Music, the greatest hits.
Really?
Which we thought was good. No, we thought it was good because, you know, a lot of people obviously like he was just starting, and a lot of people didn't hear his stuff. So now he kind of like he's, you know, obviously improved through the years, got better mastering and recording and mixing equipment. So he pretty much remixed and remastered a lot of the older songs. I'm actually on 5 of the songs, which is incredible. I didn't think I had done that many already.
And these guys are all gamers.
Hey, if I'm at the 5 of the 20 greatest hits, I was honored. I was like, hey man, this is awesome.
Caught that royalty check.
I was gonna say, I was like, man, I mean, I haven't even been here that long. But yeah, it's just, I mean, we just kind of like, you know, when you click with somebody, we just have this chemistry and we click together, and yeah, I'm excited to see, you know, what keeps going. I'm really excited about it.
Excellent.
I think people, if you like, even if you don't like, I mean, I've even showed this to people who don't like, you know, per se hip hop music solely, and they still like appreciate it because there's still the lyrical content still like, really good. And you know, like we try to really think outside the box. We try not to be like, you know, stereotypical. We try to really have thought-provoking stuff. And TJ's, you know, production style is very varied. So all the songs you're gonna hear, I mean, they have like the same kind of, you know, you can tell that it's by him, but he's just has so much range and versatility that it never gets stale or stagnant. So those are the type of guys I like to work with. And I think I found a gem with him. So, you know, shout out to Master Sword Music. And
absolutely,
I hope we keep going, you know?
Yeah, you've been video gaming for a long time.
35 years, man.
35 years strong.
Yep.
What's your favorite console?
Ooh.
I know you're a big
console.
Switch guy. I mean, you run the Switch mob, VG.
Yeah, I mean, until Switch, I mean, I was gonna say probably Super Nintendo was my favorite.
Right.
But I don't know, man. I think now Switch is my favorite because I mean it's kind of cheating, but they have so many IPs that I loved as a kid on there. I mean, like Duke Nukem. I was like a kid in the candy store when Duke Nukem came out on Switch. Like I bought it. Like I didn't care how much it was. I was like, I'll give you $20, even if it's 10. I don't.
It's
care.
an amazing console.
Yeah, and then,
I mean,
I'm also like Doom 64.
Absolutely.
Like that game was like lost on Nintendo 64. I had that at launch. I used to play that with my friends, and it was like super scary and creepy. And I always told people, I'm like, yeah, you got to play Doom 64.
Right.
And then they drop it on Switch portably. I'm like, that's what I'm saying. Games like that, there's just so many of them that I'm like, I could play all these games like portably or docked, and it works great.
Well, I got to tell you, I was late to the Switch crowd, and I've been vocal about this on social media. I mean, that was my baptism by fire into video gaming was the Atari 2600.
Nice.
So I've been video gaming. I'm 52 now. I started video gaming when I was a kid, and I've amassed a video game collection of 25,000 physical video games in my home. So
that's what's up.
I take it very seriously. But I got to tell you, when the Switch was announced, I wasn't really sold on it. And
like many,
and I was coming from the SNES days and the Nintendo 64 days where I enjoyed those consoles, and some of these games just seemed too big to be putting on these little cartridges, and I didn't know what the quality was going to be. I thought the Switch was a gimmick, and then I bought one, and the rest is history. I think it's a phenomenal console. And I think one of the best video games in the past 10 years just recently came out on the Switch, and that's The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and we're going to talk about that.
Oh, wow. Okay, so like you, TJ, I've been gaming for 35 years, and you've been even gaming longer than me. So I've played pretty much every Zelda game. I've played most of the big games that have come out on, PlayStation, Xbox, PC. Like I've always been like, I haven't been only Nintendo. I've always, dabbled with other consoles too and stuff. And I played some great games. I've never been hooked like Tears of the Kingdom.
It's incredible. I mean, Zelda's been one of those games that's been with me for a long time, the IP itself. But this game's a goddamn masterpiece.
It's just, this is the thing I was telling people, and I went into the game. I played Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
I played 150 hours of Breath of the Wild when it came out. I loved it too. And the thing with Breath of the Wild that was great that I thought going into the Tears of the Kingdom wouldn't be the same is because when Breath of the Wild came out, it was also my first game on Switch. Wow. So that whole novelty of actually being able to.
Now, did you play it on the Wii U first?
And the dock, and then taking it out and playing it portably. I was like, okay, that's never going to happen again because I've already had that experience. Right. So that's when I went into Tears of the Kingdom. I was like, yeah, I'm going to probably like this game, but it's not going to be, I'm not going to have the same feelings that I did with Breath of the Wild because of that initial, novelty of the versatility of the Switch is gone now. I mean, it's been 6-7 years. So I was like, whatever. But once I started playing this game, and then another thing too, a lot of people were saying, oh, well, it's using the same map, so it's really just DLC to Breath of the Wild. This is not a new game.
It's a complete overhaul.
The people that say that, I can unequivocally tell you they have not played the game.
No, and I was just going to say,
I picked it up. And again, from somebody who had played 150 hours of Breath of the Wild, I didn't play it for 20 or 30 hours, but 150 hours. When I started playing this game, I mean, yeah, I noticed some of the areas, but they were all changed. They added caves, they added wells, they added the Sky Islands, they added a whole complete map underground.
An incredible undertaking by Nintendo. I invested 240 hours into this game. 240 hours. I took over 1,200 in-game photos, constructed over 200 different types of vehicles, and I'm still playing it. And like
Yeah,
I said,
I
I'm
mean,
willing to say it's not only the best Zelda game that's ever made. It's perhaps I think it's the best Nintendo game ever made. I'd go on record as saying that.
You have played pretty much most of the big tentpole Nintendo titles. So, I mean, for us to say that, it has some merit to it. And that's the thing too. It's just like, I agree with you because and the other thing too is I'm not really a completionist gamer. Usually for most games, I'll play like the story. Maybe I'll do like the side quests that people like really talk about. Right. And then I'll move on. You know, this game, no, I did all the side quests. I did all the side adventures. I did all the shrines. Right. I got all the wells. I got all the bubble gems. So for me to do that, because for me, I'm not a completionist guy. So for me to do all of that and spend 275 hours in the game, to me, that was just like validation. I'm like, hey.
And it called to you.
Itself,
you wanted to find every light route. You wanted to.
Yeah, I wanted to.
I went back after
I forced. Yeah.
I went back after I beat the game 3 different times, and I'm still having a blast with it. I'll throw it on. I'll throw a movie on in the background, and I'm still playing this game. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my PlayStation 5 and my Xbox Series X, and I'm a Dark Souls player on top of it. So I've got a backlog that is ridiculous that I should probably be chipping away at. And this game keeps calling me back. Keeps calling me back. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it locks you in. That's what I'm saying. And the thing is, it's like you can try to deny it, but I really want somebody who's, you know, at least finished the story, to tell me that that game wasn't like pinnacle. It'd be hard pressed. Now, again, see people who only do one of the regional variants and drop off. You're not getting the whole thing. You know, like to me, that's just the thing. And like you said, I mean, there's even people like they've done everything and they still want to go back. And like you said, they want to play with the Zonai devices. They want to, you know, for people, I mean, that's just not my thing, but like to get all the Korok seeds. You know, like there's so many things you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. You think it gets Game of the Year?
I think it does. The only reason being is I think that the smartest thing that Nintendo did with this game to extend the tail on it was to add the Zonai crafting mechanics into it. Right. Reason being is that a lot of these Zelda games, like you play it once and that's it. But now the tail is extended on the game because people are building insane things, sharing it on YouTube, TikTok, and everything. And the tail of the game is extending because people keep doing new things. They keep, you know, doing all new vehicles and creations, ways to beat Lionel's that like nobody ever thought of. Like that,
crazy
I think
stuff.
To me, that's going to keep the game going. And then when they release, I think there's going to be DLC to it. Right. If they release the DLC, it's just going to get another second wind.
Absolutely.
So I just think, and again, I think when people play it, you know, they just know. And again, I'm not saying this has been a great year for games.
It has.
But that does, and even if it doesn't win, that doesn't diminish what the game did for me personally. Right. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. But for me personally, I mean, this to me, it's going to be very hard to beat.
I think so.
If it is. And if it is, it's a special year for games.
And it is. What were your top 3 favorite games this year?
Oh, this year?
Yeah.
Okay, this year. All right, Tears of the Kingdom, for sure. Yeah. I'm going to say Metroid Prime Remastered. Okay. That was awesome. And I mean, that game looks so crispy on the OLED. It's insane. And the game is just a classic game. Right. To begin with. And then my third, I mean, the thing is, it's tough because I got so many games that are like just about to come out that I'm like really excited to say. Like,
well, let's say so far.
Comes out next week. Spider-Man 2 comes out. Right. So Super Mario Wonder comes out. Right. So it's like it's tough, you know.
But so far.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of my third game that I'd probably say for this year.
We got 2 Nintendo games.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay with Nintendo.
You can. Nintendo. I'm just trying to think in general. I'm really excited actually. I'm gonna play it after this podcast. The Quake 2 remastered. Right. I'm excited to play that. I'm playing that in Game Pass. I'm really excited for that. So let's see how that is, because I heard really good things about it.
And we've had a really good run in the last few months with some of these games. I'm telling you, I mean, just quality.
Oh, you know what I'm going to say for my third game? Resident Evil 4 Remake. I'm going to say that. That'll be my
Great
third game. Yeah, I mean, that game, Resident Evil 4 is such a classic. It didn't even need to be remade.
Right.
But I'm telling you, one of my favorite games now of all time was Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Right.
So
you're a
when
Leon
they did
guy.
4, I wasn't mad about it. I was like, you know what? I trust you guys.
Right.
To do this. And they delivered. The game's even better. It's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm interested to see what Naughty Dog's got left in the bag, because I'm a big fan of them. I take a lot of heat on
Last of Us Part 1.
I loved
on
it.
PS3. When it launched on PS3, I bought it day one, and I was blown away by the game. I thought it was so good. 2, I was one of the guys that didn't like the Abby story. Not gonna lie, but I loved the gameplay. I loved the graphics, and the controls were so tight, and all
that's one of my favorites of all time.
I just wish if they didn't do Abby, it'd be okay. But
no, well, that's coming. There's no around that. And she's also going to be coming in the HBO series too, and it's going to piss a lot of people off.
Yeah,
my wife. Love that show.
That's what they wanted to do. It didn't click with me personally.
What, the TV show?
Again, for people that like it, great.
Yeah, my wife has no idea what's coming. She's completely in love with the main character, Joel. Joel, that's played by Pedro Pascal. She has no concept that he's going to be killed in the first episode. She has none.
No clue.
So. You had mentioned to me that you wanted to talk, and it's been mentioned a lot on social media this past week about Red Dead Redemption. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, here are my thoughts on Red Dead. Just a sidebar note before we start talking about this game.
Sure.
It's in my top 5 games of all time.
All time.
For me personally.
Okay.
I just love the game. John Marston's one of my favorite characters in all video games. Right. I love him so much. I loved the gameplay loop. I loved doing all the side quests. I loved all the environments.
Great game.
I pretty much fell in love with the game. Everything about Red Dead just clicked with me. I just loved it. It was like when I played it on PS3, I was blown away. And then when they did the Undead Nightmare, it just cemented it. I was like, okay,
absolutely.
After the DLC, this is in my top 5 games of all time for me personally.
Okay.
So just a sidebar before we talk about it.
Sure.
So for me, now again, I've played this on PS3. I did play this on Xbox backwards compatible. So again, I understand everybody's like, hey, I can just play this on Xbox, backwards compatible, and it looks great docked and everything. I'm like, yeah, I've played it like that too. But for me, ever since I had that moment that we were just talking about with Breath of the Wild in 2017, when I was playing the game on the TV, and then I took it off the dock, and I was able to play the same exact game portably wherever I wanted to play it, on my lunch break at work. If my kids are taking over the TV, I could play it there. I could play in my bed. I could play on the couch. I could play it on vacation, on work trips. Ever since then, I've wanted Red Dead Redemption
on the Switch.
On the Switch. Because
you don't think it's going to be tough on that small screen? There's a lot going on.
Even on the small screen, because I feel like some other games too that I played, I have played Grand Theft Auto, even though it wasn't a great port of it. Yeah. It was still playable. It was still fine to play on. And when the OLED with the bigger screen, the better contrast. The OLED's beautiful. I also have some nice grip Joy-Cons for it, so it's pretty comfortable to play. I've just fell in love with playing the versatility of the Switch. So when it was, even if it was just a straight up-res port of the game with the DLC, for me, that's what I wanted.
Okay.
That was one of when the system came out, I'd be like, oh man, this would be so cool if I could play Red Dead, because the game takes a lot of time to complete all the side
Absolutely.
missions and the quests and just to explore around the environment. So I was like, if I can play it portably, that's why RPGs on the Switch are the best. Because if you have to grind, if you have to, chug out some quick side quests in between sessions, you don't have to be tethered to a TV to do it.
No, you don't. I mean, I love this game. Right. I mean, I love this game. I used to run with 5 guys on Xbox Live. I played it on Xbox 360, and we went after all of the achievements together. We used to raid the forts together. That was a lot of fun for me. And I'm not saying that this game isn't going to run well on Switch, but I was a bit surprised when they announced it. And I don't know if that had anything to do with the big convention they just had. They were saving that information till now, or what. But I would have figured Rockstar had other plans on different consoles other than this.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, to me, like, the fact that it's even coming, I'm like super excited about it. Right. Now, again, if it's a bad port, that's one thing. But I have been listening to a lot of the Red Dead after the trailer dropped. A lot of the developers of the port studio were saying we took a lot of time, effort, care into it. So I'm more like I'm not as apprehensive as some other people, and just because I want the game so much, like I'm trying to be positive about it.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? So I have a good feeling about it. We'll see next week. It's coming out. I want to see like some basic reviews on it. But if it's a good port, I'm all in, and I'm probably gonna play it again. I have a huge backlog of games, but I've been wanting to replay Red Dead, but I haven't wanted to take out my PlayStation 3 again to do it.
Dust it off.
So I'm like, I didn't want to do that. So I was like, you know what, this is perfect. And then I could do it. I can actually go through all the side quests. I can, like pick my way through it.
Right.
And just play it how I want to play it. Either docked if I want, or I can just play it, do a couple side quests or 1 or 2 side missions and be done and, put into sleep mode.
Now, what does that do? Do you know when that's due?
The next week, I think next week, August 17th, I think is when they're digitally coming out. Okay. And then October 13th for the physical.
Okay.
So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we'll know how the game is next week.
And we
people
will
try it out and stuff.
Right.
And if it's good, I'm all in. But now, again, I understand the frustration with people on the PlayStation side, though.
Yeah.
Because when I guess this is just how most Switch ports have come. When the Switch ports have come, I don't, for better or worse, I don't expect the online features to really be transported over. Just because I think devs have a hard time with their system, which it's not really as advanced as the Xbox or PlayStation online systems. So to me, that doesn't bother me because I've kind of been used to it.
Right.
And like I said, if I really wanted to play online, I could play it on Xbox and jump on and play. So, you know what I mean? It's not a big deal for me.
Double dip
again,
for
for
you.
some people, that's a deal breaker. I get it.
Yeah.
But for PlayStation, I understand. Because PlayStation has the infrastructure to do the online. And the fact that they haven't announced that this is going to have multiplayer online on PlayStation, and they didn't at least even do 60 FPS on PlayStation, which is more, again, it's a more capable system than the Switch, because the Switch you have to worry about being portable at the same time. Totally get those complaints. And if it was me, I wouldn't buy the PlayStation version, even with the PS5 version. But I look at it from the Switch version, I'm like, this is a dream port for me. Because it's just, I love the game, and I think the game, the way there's so much area to explore, there's so many side missions to do, the story is so awesome that, and again, a lot of people too, like, I've been looking on Twitter, a lot of people haven't even played this game.
That just boggles my mind.
Played it before? If you've never played the game before, to me, it's still worth it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, I've got my sights set on Starfield, to be quite honest.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I mean,
so I'm going to be dipping my feet into that.
Played it. you've played it, you've ran the online, you've done you've actually played that game extensively. Right. So that's different.
But I'll peek at it and see if it's something that maybe like you, I will get some enjoyment out of just running it for as many hours as I feel, and always enjoy that portability.
Yeah,
I mean,
and again, I'm not saying everybody has to go out and buy it at launch because, the games go down in price. I get it. If you're not like a big fan like I am, you don't have to get it at launch. Nobody's putting a gun to your head. You know what I mean? So if you want to wait a little bit, hey, that's fine. I don't blame you. That's perfect.
Right. Video games in general, they're making it tough for everybody because with all these collector's editions that are coming out now, what bothers me is when they put out special edition collector's editions like that, and it's a digital download only.
I hate it. It's sacrilege to me. I hate it.
It's ridiculous. It just defies logic. I personally don't understand why anyone would want to invest in something like that. So you want me to buy
the solo copy of the game and then also the $200? It makes no sense. I agree. It makes no sense.
And that goes for the Starfield that I was just talking about. I mean, I'm just going vanilla on that. Their collector's edition is $300 and it's a digital download. It's crazy. That's sacrilegious.
I mean, it looks cool, but no disc. I mean, come on, you can't give me a $2 disc for $300. Come on.
Ridiculous. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to do a segment on the show that we call Questions from the Community.
Perfect.
Today on Twitter and throughout actually most of the week, we pitched, we sent a tweet out and asked our listeners to send in or write in some questions. We're going to read those and see what VG has to say about those, and we'll go from there.
Perfect.
This is Ricky Bittman, host of Ricky Bittman's Jukebox Podcast. I want to thank all my fans for making my podcast one of the top podcasts in the country. From the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my co-host Galen Santopadre's heart, thank you, thank you, thank you. Up, up, and away, hey!
All right, we're back with Jonathan Drews, the video game mobster, and we're going to do a little section here on the show that we call Questions from the Community. So this week on Twitter, we asked our fans and listeners of the show to write down some questions that they wanted to ask John, and we're going to read them and see what he has to say. So the first question comes from Jeff, and he's at Liquid, a.k.a. Jeff on Twitter, and he asks, VG, what's your take on some gaming companies making decisions to go digitally only with no physical copy, i.e. Alan Wake 2?
Ooh, okay. In the case of Alan Wake 2, I think it's pretty lame because their excuses were saying that they were going to release it like that to, increase the turnaround time and to cut costs.
Right.
But I feel like, and then a lot of the other, once they announced that, a lot of other publishers were like, hey, we'll do it for you and we'll do it for a good price.
Right.
I feel like they just it was just PR speak, and that's where they got caught.
Right.
I feel like they didn't really see, and again, especially for a game like Alan Wake 2 that's been so highly anticipated.
Oh, it's been hyped to the max.
They could have made it happen if they just looked around a little bit. I just think their PR speak people kind of caught on to it really quick.
Right.
In terms of just digital only,
right.
I mean, PC is already pretty much digital only.
True.
Unfortunately, for guys like me and you, CJ, who have been collecting forever for years and years, I mean, we already see that it is going to go that way.
Right.
But you know what? I'm going down with the ship. Until they stop doing it, I'm going to keep buying physical discs. So that's my answer to it. We know where it's going to go. But I'm one of those people. I like to put it on my shelf. I like to get something tangible when I buy it. I want to have ownership of it.
Right.
I want to, be able to share it with other people if I want.
Right.
That's just how I grew up. Again, now my kids, they, if I didn't like physical media, they probably wouldn't even have it at all. So
no, and that's just the thing. I mean, that's the way of the world now. My kids are the same way. Rewind TV, everything's instant. So, it's the same thing with digital. And I expect PC and Steam to be all digital, but I'm a collector. There's no collecting in digital copies only. None.
I think Switch 2 is going to be one of the last physical consoles. I
Probably.
think after 2, they're probably going to go all digital as well. So, I mean, the writing on the wall is there, but I'm going down with the ship until it happens.
Well, what scares me, John, is if you have a digital library, can you really guarantee that you'll be able to play those games years from now when the servers go down? Exactly. I mean, I can go into my closet at home and I can pull out any number of Atari or Sega Saturn games or Genesis games and put them in and play immediately and not have to
cartridges, SNES cartridges, stuff like that. Yep.
This whole Mother May I system going digital is.
Well, I mean, look
I'm
at
not really
Scott
enthralled with
Pilgrim. Look at Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Remember, Ubisoft had licensing issues with it. Pulled it from the storefront. Never could get it again until they took
Limited Run did that though,
to get
didn't
the
it?
licensing back to re-release it.
Right.
So yes, that's the problem with the digital. Does that mean it's going to stop it from happening? Probably not. But I totally see what you're saying. That's why I'm going down with the ship until they stop doing it. I'm going to support it.
Yeah, not for me. All right, next question comes from Robot Turkey. And Robot Turkey,
Switch Mom
love
member.
the name.
Shout out to Robot Turkey.
In the next 10 years, will Sony figure out the VR thing? Because they seem to be obsessed with it. Will their sales drop? Now, I don't own a VR, so this is all you.
Correct. I don't own a VR. I have played it. I played PSVR 1 about 5 to 6 times. I've not played PSVR 2.
Right.
But what I can say is that, again, I feel, especially like a company like Facebook investing so much into like VR. Again, I think people think that's where it's going. And I think Sony knows in the beginning that it is going to be an early adoption rate. However, I feel that they're like, hey, if we can get a head start, if this does jump off, we're going to have a head start, whereas other people are going to be scrambling to catch up.
Right.
If, in 5-10 years, it catches on for real.
Right.
And we've already been in the space. We have a relationship with the developers. We've been producing games for a while. So I think that's why they're getting in on it right now.
Right.
Again, it hasn't really caught on 100% yet. I mean, it's getting better. I think the biggest, barriers are, number one, the wires. People just don't want to be tethered to a device like that. The price, obviously.
Oh, the price point. Yeah.
I mean, $550 for the PlayStation, and you need a PS5 as well. So you're talking $1,000.
Just right out the gate.
Just that's not even games or anything. Just to play it.
Right.
So. Again, just like with any other technology, eventually it's, once it's more mainstream, there's, it's going to go down in price. And I think Sony is just doing that because, like I said, I think they think that their business model is, hey, if we get in on this early, when it does pop off, like we predict, we've already have relationships with these VR developers, and we're going to be able to really maximize that time while other people are catching up. That's what I'm thinking.
I think the same thing. Yeah.
I mean, right now you'd be like, why are they putting so much in? It didn't even really sell that much.
It didn't.
But they're thinking, it's kind of like with Xbox, right? With Game Pass, they're saying, hey, like, we're not making as much money maybe as we would have if we would have been pushing our games in a traditional manner. But we see that the subscription model is something that our analysts and predictions think is going to be the future. Right. So we're going all in on it. And then if other people try to catch up, they're not going to do it as quickly. So,
and they don't. Exactly. You get a lot out of Game Pass for your money, though. You do.
Oh yeah. No, you get. I'm not saying it's apples to apples, but I'm just saying that they're going against the grain of what the other competitors are doing because they feel that's going to be in the future. That's going to be something that they can capitalize in down the road. That's all I'm saying.
Perfect. Next question comes from Frap Mocha. And he's at Mocha on Twitter.
I love Frap Mocha. Shout out to Frap Mocha.
We know Frap. Frap's a long time friend of the family and a collector. He's got a question for the both of us. Provided your family members and pets are safe, but your home is on fire. What video game or system are you grabbing and running out the door with?
I have most of my. I'm going to grab my Switch in the case that holds pretty much all my physical games and just run out. Yeah, because I mean that's the quickest, and if it's a fire, I don't have that much time. So,
for me, Frap, it's going to be a double answer. For me, and I own some pretty heavy hitters. Panzer Saga, Snatcher. Some of these games that are well into the thousands of dollars to physically own, and a lot of great copies don't exist anymore. They can all burn, because I'll tell you what, you could probably find another physical copy like that if you really wanted it back. But what I can't replicate is a first printing of Metal Gear Solid that was signed in person to me by David Hayter, Snake himself.
Ooh, beautiful.
Back in 2017, I met him in Boston. And the backstory on that is I was standing in line with my son so that my son could meet him and get his autograph. And I had a copy of my Metal Gear Solid game with me. I was going to have Dave sign it. And we struck up a conversation in line, and we got on the topic of me being a paramedic. And he had such a deep appreciation for my profession. He took the game out of my hand while we were talking and signed it while we were still talking and handed it back to me, and then took a bunch of pictures with me. Never charged me for it. I would have paid for it. I can't, so that backstory, it's sentimental to me. So that, now I have it framed in a shadow box in my game room. And
I'd also like to add to my answer as well.
Go ahead.
I would definitely do that, but I also do my second. I'd probably see if I could grab this one too. I still have my Genesis Nomad.
You do? Nice.
Yeah, I have my Genesis Nomad, and I never
owned one. I would have loved to have owned one.
Yeah, I had one, and I never had the heart to get rid of it.
No.
So it's so cool.
True
it was
handheld.
Like the Switch before the Switch. I think that's why the Switch really appealed to me, because I had the seed set with the Genesis Nomad back in the day, and I was like, this is awesome.
Right.
So
that's a good one to grab. The second game for me. Well, actually, it'd be a package. You know that just from on Twitter that one of my longtime friends is Shelley Blonde. For those that don't know that are listening, Shelley Blonde is the original voice of Lara Croft. She voiced Lara Croft in the first 2 video games of Tomb Raider. And she has signed a bunch of pictures from me, signed all of my first run copy covers for all of my games. And I'm sure I could probably get Shelley to sign for me again, but she personally sent these to me.
That's cool.
Personally sent these to me. On top, I sent her my covers, and she sent me back a care package, which much more. And I'll post a picture on Twitter that I could ever ask for. She's a diamond. If you're not following her on social media, on Twitter, she's at Blonde Shelley. She's a phenomenal person.
I'm following her right after this podcast.
And you should.
I will.
All right, let's see. We got a couple of more questions here as we wind down. We already talked about Red Dead. Got a question from Carl Skiles, and he wanted to know what VG's thoughts were on the 3DO console, ahead of its time or trash.
This was actually a really cool question. So thank you for asking this to me, because my dad used to work in Stearns Electronics. He was a manager.
Really?
And what they used to do, they used to send them out to the CES, Consumer Electronics Show, every year. And he saw the 3DO be unveiled. And he went up to me and he said, Jonathan, you are going to love this console. He said, it blew my mind when he showed the demo.
Is this the Panasonic?
CES. Yeah, and it was so cool because I when I went into Stearns, which got acquired by Macy's down the road, but when I went in there, they actually had my dad brought me in the day that they set up the 3DO test display inside of the store. And I played it and I was like, wow, this is really cool. now looking back at it, I mean, I think they thought that the full motion video was going to be bigger than it was. And at the time, it was really cool because most people were just seeing like pixel art.
Right.
And, you know, this felt like more alive. So I think at the time, like that's what they thought the direction was going to be, like more kind of like interactive movies is where games were going.
Right.
I mean, I feel like looking back at it, like that obviously wasn't, you know, the way to go.
Right.
But I mean, at that time without a crystal ball, you could see why they were trying to do that and like make it.
Yeah, you have to applaud them for trying that. I think the price point sunk them a little bit too. I mean, they came out at a time
really high. It was really high. But it was cool because my dad was like literally from the unveiling. He was telling me about this system, and I was telling my friends too. He's like, "Hey, my dad just saw this system 3DO," and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And then like months later, there's actually commercials on TV for stuff. They're like, "Oh yeah, the 3DO. You talked about that once, did you?" So that's kind of cool that he mentioned that. But yeah, I think like at that time they thought it was going to be ahead, but it ended up not being where games were really going to go. So,
all right, we got a final question from me to you.
Oh man!
To wrap this up, what was the first console you ever owned, and do you still own it?
Sega Genesis was the first one that I owned with Sonic 2.
Okay.
That was the first one I owned. First one I played was NES, Nintendo. But the first one that I owned was Sonic. So I was a Genesis guy growing up. I had the Mortal Kombat, Genesis, ABAC, Blood Code. You know, like I was all in on Genesis. Every time there's like you had to plant your flag, I would usually plant on Genesis because that's what I had.
Right.
So yeah, Genesis.
King of the 16-bit. Listen, I love Super Nintendo, but I just wrote an article on Medium.com about Sega. And Sega holds a very special place in my heart, too.
Yeah, I mean, they were both great. My friends had Super Nintendo, so I would go over there. I'd play Mario Kart, Super Mario World and stuff, but I just owned Sega. And it was cool, though. I got my 6-button controller. I was playing Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat with the blood. So it was fun. It was fun.
And I know you're a physical guy, not a digital guy. So your first game, you still own it. The first game you ever played, you still own it. I do.
Wow. The first game you played?
First game I ever played, was on the Atari 2600. My father bought me an Atari 2600 back in the late 70s, Space Invaders with the combat pack in.
Wow.
And shortly after that, Asteroids, and I have all 3 of my original cartridges since I was a kid.
That's insane. I do not. The first game that I played Nintendo at my friend's house, I did not own it.
Okay.
So I couldn't have it, but I still do have my Sonic 2 cartridge from Sega. That was the first system that I owned. So I still do have that. So that's probably the earliest one that I owned, that I played. I mean, the first game that I played, I didn't own the system, so I couldn't really like keep it.
Right.
But for Sega, the first system that I owned, I do have that Sonic cart. I do have it.
Nice. Yep. Well, what's your favorite movie of all time?
Godfather. Surprise.
How did I not
VG
know
Mobster.
that? How did
Godfather
I not know
sure.
that?
I actually have a tattoo on my back right shoulder.
Okay.
Of the marionette hand. From
Do
Godfather.
you really?
Yep, I do. It's my. I have a signed copy of the book by Mario Puzo as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think he's connected, TC. I think he's connected.
Yeah, he passed away, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't a connected guy, but he just grew up with a lot of mafia guys around him, so he knew the lifestyle. And he was also Mario Puzo was a huge gambler,
right?
So he actually, when he was writing The Godfather, he actually went to a lot of like casinos to do like research and gamble himself. And he became really friendly with a lot of mobsters in the casinos. So that's another thing that inspired him for the book as well.
You're talking to a kid that grew up in South Boston and Charlestown. I'm used to the Irish mob, so it's a part of your culture.
There you go. That's it. So yeah, I mean, I grew up in New Rochelle. My dad grew up in Tremont Avenue in the Bronx. So
Wow.
a lot of Italian there. Yep.
Good eating in those neighborhoods.
Oh yeah, I still go to Arthur. I'm close enough that I can still go back to Arthur Avenue in the Bronx. So
Very nice.
That's one of the blessings in New Jersey. You know.
Final, just to wrap it up, what are you looking forward to the most in next gen gaming?
Oh man, what am I looking for? The next game or just next gen like consoles in general?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Okay, I think seeing like for next gen, I want to see where they make the innovations now, because I feel like, not that they've tapped out on graphics, but I feel like they're getting pretty close to tapping out on graphics. So let's see where the new innovation comes. Is that going to be going more in the controllers? Is that going to be going more into like the online and the ways that we interact with the games? Right. Is that, just integrating like AR and VR into that to kind of make them more immersive, and mainstream at the same time? Like, that's the thing, is I think for years and years they've just been, because it's so easy to market graphics, but now I think we're almost hitting, not that we've hit the ceiling, but we're pretty close to it on the graphical front. So I want to see where they innovate other than that going forward. I think that's really exciting for me.
It is, and it is going to be very exciting because there's a lot of things coming down the pipe.
I mean, like you remember CJ, like when I put the Rumble pack in Star Fox 64 for N64,
right?
To me, that like blew my mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Like when I was a kid, that blew my mind.
Or the 32X when you put it on your Genesis.
Yeah, when
absolutely.
you just pop it in, it's like a brand new system. It was so cool.
Right.
Let's see what they come up with.
All right. I want to thank my friend John for coming on the show. And John, why don't you tell everyone where we can find you on social media?
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me. I'm most active on Twitter at VG Mobster. Also on YouTube, you can check out my channel, VG Mobster. I also want to encourage you guys to also follow my musical group, Master Sword Music, at Master Sword Music on Twitter, like the Zelda sword. And then also on YouTube as well, Master Sword Music. Just search in there for it. We got a lot of projects coming up. I'm also going to be, keeping you guys up to date on the latest video game news and just, interacting and bonding with the community in a gangster way, because I'm the VG Mobster. So.
If you want to connect with someone who knows his stuff in the video game realm, add VG Mobster on Twitter. Thanks for coming on, John.
And refuse. Peace out, everybody.
Oh, hello there. I'm Abigail Harwich, the new executive producer of After Hours with TC Rastani, and I want you to follow my Twitter. Follow the information at the bottom of the screen. I can't wait to tweet you.
Welcome back to Retro Rundown, and I just got to say, wow, that this has been an incredible show. I want to take one last chance to thank VG Mobster, John Drews, for stopping by the show and giving his thoughts on everything video gaming tonight. I had a blast, and take one last chance to remind you that this show is not about me. It's about you, and I want to take this chance to invite one of my producers into the booth, TC.
What's going on there, CJ? I've been listening up in the producing booth, and what a fantastic job you did. I know very little about video games, but after listening to that interview, I think I know everything there is to know. You guys are experts on that subject.
I appreciate that. We had a lot of fun. John is a very well-read video gamer. He's been collecting for a long time. He's got a great in-depth knowledge of the subject matter, and I had a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun listening to it.
Well, I'm glad that you did.
And I know, after speaking with your other executive producer, Miss OMG Abby, you guys have a big contest for the fans. Can you give us the 411 on what's going on with the Retro Rundown contest?
We do. We're running two separate contests right now. And if you follow me at Cardiac Drop and my podcast at retro_rundown. You'll see the details there. It's a summer giveaway. So the first one is if you follow and retweet, and you can find the details, follow my podcast at retro_rundown on Twitter. We're giving away a 4K movie prize package, TC.
Wow.
And that includes a copy of Hurricane Heist, a box of Orville Redenbacher popcorn, some candy, and show swag thrown in there.
Unbelievable. It's better than Turtle Wax, what they used to give people on game shows, that's for sure.
And we're running another giveaway. And if you listen to the show tonight, then you can enter this as well. So what we got a killer lineup of guests that are going to be joining the show over the next couple of months. But tonight, when I spoke with John, one of the community members pitched us a question, and it was, what video game would you go back into your burning house to get and leave with? And I gave 2 answers. So if you listen to the podcast tonight, you could tweet out those 2 answers or leave your answers right here on YouTube in the comments. Then you'll be entered into to win this. And this is a prize pack. And the winner gets a chance to select 3 4K movies from the 80s. I have a list that I'm going to post on Twitter, along with the snack pack and the show swag as well.
Unbelievable. So you give back to your community listeners.
We try.
That's why this program, the Retro Rundown, is going to be a phenomenal success. But not only do you entertain their ears, you're going to entertain their mailboxes as well.
That's right. That's right. Well, TC, thank you very much for this opportunity to come on tonight. I appreciate it.
Anytime. I'm proud to produce this program.
We'll see you the next time on Retro Rundown. So I just want to remind everyone out there to stay classic, stay vintage, and always stay retro.